Ameenah Gurib-Fakim, thank you so much for joining me at the Doha Debates.
Thank you for having me.
What was it like growing up in Mauritius, and how did you experience or become aware of capitalism for the first time, the system that we all live in?
You know, I grew up, as you say, rightly so, in Mauritius. My childhood was in Mauritius until, of course, I became an adolescent. And then I left precisely for another capitalistic country, the UK. But I saw what growth means. I lived it. And, you know, when we had independence from the British in 1968, we had a per capita income of $200. And as we speak, we're just under 10,000, right? And so what we have witnessed over the past 51 years is what growth can bring to my country. And we have moved also with very strategic decisions which have been taken, strategic actions by successive governments in diversifying the economy. And we had something which is very, very important, which is free education. And we've seen, for example, the government which has given free healthcare, a social net for the vulnerable, and up front, we had started with the family planning system. So all these ingredients have been instrumental in getting us to where we are today. I saw poverty when I was growing up. My neighbors were very, very poor. And I can put this poverty to, to some extent, lack of education. But when I saw prosperity being shared, when we had free education, I saw that as a huge social enabler. And I saw precisely these poor neighbors who had very poor kids who suddenly could access education. And through education, their lives got changed, they become professionals. And it was these very professionals that have actually helped us to nurture the new pillars of the economy which came up, which were financial services, IT, and all those pillars which came subsequently to ensure that growth is sustained. But more importantly, I feel growth must be shared.
Is capitalism designed for everybody? Is it something that everyone has access to, or does it force some people at the door to stay there and never be able to kind of climb up this ladder? Is capitalism accessible to everybody?
It's an economic system that has been put in place with precisely the view to ensuring that everyone has equal access. But where it falls is precisely the way it's implemented. But unfortunately, this is where the human factor comes in, because when we are human beings, we don't have the same reflex. We tend to be very greedy.
Who is in charge of that implementation, and why will they not heed the warnings and the advice from these great thinkers?
Politicians and leaders and shapers of the policies, as I said, the human factor comes in, is greed, right? The reason why we had the 2008 meltdown is because we have systematically removed regulatory frameworks. We have removed the responsible roles of government. And now we're going to be in front of another ball game altogether. And that's new technologies, how this is going to shape up the future. Again, I find that there is an increasingly important role for governments to play in shaping these regulations, because, as I said, we cannot keep on talking about shareholders as much as, in fact, we should be talking about stakeholders, because the people who are actually creating that pie must see themselves in that equation.
As a politician and as a head of state, you must have seen around you, I'm not asking you to name names, but certain colleagues of yours or certain departments that you just probably wanted to grab them and shake them, that you are not doing your job, you are not meeting your mandate of working for the people. As a politician, how frustrating is it to see that, to see this great vision and dream that you have to prosper every single person that you are responsible for as a head of state just crumble around you, when greed or inefficiency or corruption just is all around you?
It comes down to the leadership of the country. I mean, we vote people on a program, we vote them on what they want to change, the change they want to bring. But at the end of the day, as the mandate progressed, you find that other factors come in, and you have mentioned corruption, and you have also seen the disconnect. That they have with the people. They tend to live in an echo chamber and in an ivory tower. They're completely out of touch with the demands of the people. And I think this is where many leaders fail. They fail because they don't listen. And when they get the messaging, they don't act on it.
Can you give me an example of when capitalism has succeeded in distributing that wealth and that growth evenly to prosper all?
There has been many countries that have shaped their policies to redistribute more. And here again, I tend to think of the Scandinavian countries.
The Scandinavian countries?
Many of them, they have been very proactive in making sure that the policies are woman-friendly, workers-friendly, and generally that way. So these are some of the models that we have, and these countries, they tend to be very socialistic in their approach, and yet their pies are very big.
You've done a project with the Wellcome Trust, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, NEPAD, and CARI as well. This is like a African and international organization. Through the UN, you have tried to bring together people around science and technology as a way that Africa specifically and Mauritius can prosper. Talk to me a little about that in the context of, say, someone like Greta Thunberg, who says, in fact, in a world of finite resources, you cannot have infinite growth.
You cannot have infinite growth. To cite Thunberg, yes, you cannot have infinite growth, but I think we need to have growth, sustained growth, not infinite, sustained growth, so that precisely the countries, they're equipped with the right resources. And when I say resources, I don't mean financial resources. We're talking about technological resources. But having access to technological resources, well, ideally, if in an ideal world, we'd like to see sharing of these technological resources, because at the end of the day, leading countries who have been leading polluters, right, they need to start leading. And leading means precisely re-looking at the way we can share technology, because we are living in one planet. There is no planet B, right? And whatever will happen in New York or in Sydney will be impacting India, will be impacting Mauritius. So we are all together on this boat together. So we need to stop thinking in the silo way of saying, we are rich, you are poor, that's your problem. We need to take them by the hand and make them come up.
You know, they say the definition of insanity is repeating something again and again and again and again and expecting a different outcome. Is this where we are with capitalism and the system? Are we insane to assume that because it hasn't worked in the last 400 years for enough people, that the next 400 years should be dictated by its principles?
I think there was Einstein that said that you can't use the same tools that you have used to create the problem and expect the same solutions. Definitely, we need to relook at it, because I think increasingly capitalism must be giving us a method that is socially inclusive, where it is environmentally benign.
But you're not willing to give up on it. This is what I find fascinating.
We can't give up on it. It is the way that we will be generating resources for our people. We need to live. We need to eat. We need to drink. We need to do these things, and this will come with growth. It will come with growth. But as I said, the way we're going to distribute it, the way we're going to ensure that it is environmentally, no longer corrosive to the environment, the way it's going to be shared. I mean, this is where the solutions will lie, and this is where we are butting all the time, because we have human greed that come in the way.
Your Excellency, thank you so much for talking to me in the Doha Debates.
Thank you so much.